many of you were on my previous session about OmniThread library? Okay, so the database demo, which was not working, I restarted the interbase, then it worked. So the code is okay. And everything is already on the net, so you can download the code. If you go to my blog, then go to the presentations, you will find links to all ITDevCon presentations and demo code, including this one. It's already there. I had some time during the previous session, so I uploaded everything. You can get the PPS PDF version of slides and zip with all the demos. Have fun. So today's topic is Windows and OS X development. The approach will be hands-on. That is a series of specialized questions, more specialized than with the OmniThread library session, and relatively short answers which will give you some idea where to start looking, where to start searching, where to continue, what are important units, important sites on the internet that will help you, important pages of the Delphi documentation. You know that all Delphi documentation is available on the internet. There's a wiki managed by the Embarcadero with a good search, much better search than the help on the PC. So very much recommended. I will give some links later in the presentation. And I presume everybody here knows how to set up development environment for Windows development, yes, so we'll skip that. But the OS X can be tricky if you first time, if you make it first time and start working with it. So I will presume you know nothing about Delphi configuration to work with OS X and so on. I will start at the beginnings. Basically, you have two approaches. If you want to run code on the OS X, actually, technically it's OS X most of the time. I get mistaken and they say OS X, so both are the same to me. But if you want to develop for OS X, you need a Macintosh computer. Theoretically, you could run it in a virtual machine, but that's officially not supported. It's prohibited. You can find torrent sites with virtual machines for Mac installations, but usually they're not for the latest Mac OS version, and not everything is working and so on. And you need a Windows machine to run the Delphi in. And you need a Delphi at least version XE2. XE3 is better, has more support, but XE2 will work too. So there are two options. You need Mac OS X hardware. There's no escaping that. But you can skip the Windows computer if you install the Parallels software on the Mac or VMware.
I wouldn't advise Parallels.
Yeah. Virtualbox, yes, from Oracle. Virtualbox got much better in the last 2 years, so it's now quite a very good virtual machine software, and it's free. So you can install Windows inside a virtual machine on a Mac. Lots of people are doing this. I think all Embarcadero presenters are nowadays running around with Apple notebooks running Windows in a virtual machine. I usually go the other way. This is Windows PC, and have this Mac Mini. The smallest one will do if you just want to test things out and so on. At home, I connect it to a dedicated screen, or I use the VNC remote access software. Depends on what I'm doing. Here we'll have some trouble because the resolution of this is 800 by 600, and I will try to cram everything together. I will switch a lot. But if you are doing serious development for OS X, I recommend you use at least 2 monitors independently on which approach you are using, and put on one monitor a Windows machine, on the other monitor a Mac machine, or virtual Windows, or whatever, or remotely accessed Mac. Just split your workspace between Windows and Mac. It becomes much easier to do. Then, speaking about toolchain, as I said, Delphi, XE2 or XE3, and something called Platform Assistant, which is a software that comes with Delphi. It gets installed in the bin folder. The installation package is put there. You can grab this installation package, start it on the Mac, and it will install everything needed. It can be also used for remote debugging on Windows. This link will give you the basics about setting, remote assistant, and other stuff. This is the doc wiki I was speaking about. Very good resource. So I'll show you how everything looks after if it's set up. This is working too? Yes. So I have remote access to my Mac Mini, and there is a command file which was created by the Platform Assistant installation. It's just some setup, and then it calls the PA server program, which is the Platform Assistant server. And this one accepts a few parameters, which I don't use most of the time. You can set port number, for example, because the connection is over the TCP/IP. Gigabit Ethernet helps a lot, much better than 100 megabit. And it is protected by a password. That's because when you run the Platform Assistant server on your Mac, it basically runs with very high system rights. It can start and debug and interfere with any program on the system. And you don't want to run such software unprotected without a password so that anybody can access it from anywhere and create a mess on your computer. Well, if it's machine to machine via single cable, then there's no chance of that. And when you run it, it will start. It's listening on port 64211. The first time I started, after the machine is rebooted, the OS X will also ask me if I'm sure this is a program with system rights, please type the password and so on, so that you know this is something important you're doing here. And on the Delphi side, I'll open a project. Okay, or I'll start a new project. Let's do a hello world. We'll pick everything else as we go. So I'll be writing FireMonkey application, of course. VCL does not run on OS X. And I'll be limiting myself to HD application. 3D works the same, but it's less important, I think. Oops. So if you look here into what you get in FireMonkey is this deployment command, which I never know, which will come back later. And you also get, okay, I'm fighting with my limited space, sorry. So if I open Project Manager, I can see this is now set up to be compiled on Windows. And I can add another platform, which can be 64-bit Windows, but more importantly, it can be OS X. And as the system knows that OS X cannot be a local platform. It must be debugged on a remote machine. It also assigns something called remote profile, which is a description of the machine where I will be debugging it. Basically, it's IP address or name, port, and password. I can create multiple remote profiles if I want to debug stuff on multiple machines. Basically, if I go to the edit, you see I will set this is the OS X with this IP address, this port number, and I did set the password to be the same password. I can set the local root, which is where the stuff will be copied on the remote side. And I can specify paths on the remote where the files are deployed, where the files are copied. Because when I say run, what happens? Exe file gets compiled. Then it's copied over the network to the Mac. A remote symbol file, which is file used in the debugger, is also copied. I can specify other files to be copied, for example, database drivers, which are not compiled into the exe. I can specify other files specific to my application, configuration files, XML files, images, whatever to be copied. And when this happens, the remote program will start. I'll show this in a moment, but let's say for now I can test. And what I wanted to show before in the deployment page, it's on the screen, sorry. I can say, for example, please distribute Midas library. Okay, I only need OS X version. This one is quite important because it's needed by the T-client dataset. So if you do any local databases with client dataset, you will typically deploy at least the Midas, and possibly other stuff. But for my hello world, I don't need anything. I will just add the button. And on the click, I'll do show message hello ITDevCon. Font would do, that's the biggest one I can set if I want to see anything on the screen. Save, of course, save the project. Let's first test it. This is an interesting Delphi problem. If the screen is too small, you cannot reach the project manager on the top. You can if you know how many up arrows you have to push. But it's funny. Tool palette works the. Oops. Sorry for that. We'll manage somehow. Is it somewhere there? Because Control Alt F11, as you've just seen, does something weird on my HP. Oh, here it is. One arrow up. And it switches the resolution. So I will keep this here, but very small. Okay, this could work. So let's run it first on Windows. No, I didn't change it. Let's run it first on Windows. It's FireMonkey application with the message trivial, nothing special. If I run it on a OS X, I can do the same. F9. Now it says deploying. It copies the project, it copies X, and now it's copying remote symbols for debugging, icons and everything. And the program is running now, but on a different machine, which I don't see. But it's here. So if I want, I can... okay, this is Ultra VNC bug. You cannot make it go away if it's full screen. I can press a button. In the Delphi, I will drop into the debugger. I can expect variables, see the call stack, and so on and so on. So it's fully integrated debugger, except that the program is running on a remote computer. And of course, the message box is different. It looks like message boxes do on the Mac. I have to close it, then I'm back to square one with my Hello World program. So the next big question I thought about is, how do I create installer? How do I deploy my program to a Mac when it is finished? And the answer at the moment is slightly dissatisfying. I don't know of any good solution that would allow you to create installers for both machines, for both operating systems, with a single configuration file and from a single source. With Exe3, you can create something called a bundle, which is a typical way to deploy applications onto a Mac. And this is actually just a glorified zip archive with some specific files inside. Exe3 will allow you to create a bundle, and I will not go into that, but you can check this very detailed page on the doc wiki. Making a bundle also allows you to submit applications to Mac App Store. This was already done for FireMonkey applications. It's tested. Apple will accept such an application. You will then be able to sell it, distribute it, whatever. But this is not a required step. You can take a bundle, put it on a Mac, and it will run from there. Except if it is a new 10.8 with fully enabled protection, which prevents running programs that were not distributed through the App Store. But there's nothing you can do in this case. If the machine is set up to only accept programs from the App Store, then it must go to the App Store. That's it. For Exe2, there exists a Delphi OS 10 bundler, which is separate application with a very poor site. Basically, it's just a download link. But David I recently put together, recently, in June, a short article describing what it can do and where you can find it. So maybe this is a place to start looking. People ask me a lot if there are any third-party components already available for the FireMonkey. Well, there are, but not many. Arcana has released the ApeSuite package quite long ago. It would be half a year, I think. Contains, this one is interesting, SVG viewer for vector graphics, a grid which is more powerful than the built-in grid, something like ribbon-like stuff, the tray icon that works on both Mac and Windows, that's interesting, some user interface controls, and for a full list, see the website. And the TMS has recently released the full FireMonkey pack. It has a very powerful grid, calendar, navigation bar, which is the navigation on the left side of the application, clock, and controls like compass, batch control, which gives you a number inside the small batch, like number of waiting emails and so on. And then there's no more. maybe some very small.
JMS is developing some new stuff.
Yeah, both of them are working on the stuff, but there's no big third party, no big third company doing it. Maybe some small programmers somewhere that I don't know about. DevExpress has explicitly said we will not support FireMonkey, so no hope for a DevExpress suite. Okay, now I'll move more to programmers issues. How to work with files and folders. For some reason, this is one of the biggest changes that you will see in your code. If you code to FireMonkey, FireMonkey will take care of the user interface changes, menus, dialogs, and so on. But file system is simply not the same in Mac and on Windows. That's why that's because OS X is a Unix. Down below, this is a Unix operating system. It uses Unix file systems. And Unix file systems, well, except besides calling everything directory and not a folder, but it's still the same stuff, they have no concept of a drive letter. On a Unix, everything starts with a slash, and it's a forward slash, not backward slash. If you remember many versions ago, include trailing backslash function from sysutils got a copy called include trailing path delimiter. And this is the reason. That's when the Kylix was first supported, and on the Kylix, same as on OS X, path delimiters are forward slashes, not backward slashes. And there is no C colon nowhere to be found. Everything starts at the root, and if you have multiple drives inside machine, they simply get mapped somewhere in this big directory tree. For example, in this case, when typically user files are stored in the home folder, this home could easily represent a different partition on a drive, or even a different drive. There's no way for you to know it unless you go and call very specialized Unix stuff to get this information back. But also you won't care. And so this is done with something called symbolic linking, which was also introduced in NTFS version 5, I believe, and which allows you to insert one partition or one folder at some place in a different directory tree, and the operating system will make sure that you just traverse it as if everything is on one drive. The problem here is that theoretically you can create loops. One folder maps to another folder, and then you browse to some subfolder, and this one maps back to the beginning. This is usually caused by an error. You will only care about this if you write some system tools that must function in all cases correctly, like if you will create a file space analyzer, for example, for OS X, that will browse the whole tree and display what's used, what's not, which file types take most of the space, and so on and so on. Something you should be aware of, but most of the time you will not need to take any care about. And what's interesting, maybe the Unix has no concept of file extension. It has no concept of start notepad editor if you double-click text file. This is added later in the user interface of Mac, for example. The user interface will know if it's text file, there's a default application that will run this, but there's no equivalent of open shell. In Windows, you say shell.open or whatever it is. a text file, and an appropriate application will get started. And I don't know if there's any equivalent of that in OS X. File extensions are still there, but they're more of a decoration of a convention than something that is built deep into the operating system as it is on Windows, or as it was on DOS. And to help you with all that, there's a system.io utils unit, which I will not have time to demo, I think. But it's very simple to use. Let's see if I can make this full screen. No, I cannot. Oh, go. IOUtils contains 2 or 3 very important structures which are implemented as records with a bunch of class procedures and class functions. And for example, instead of using enum files to find all files in a folder, you would say, where you are, tDirectory.getDirectories, and it will return an array of strings representing all subdirectories, subfolders of a given folder. You can do a masking, you can do your own filtering function that will throw some results away because you're not interested in them, and so on and so on. Then you also have get files, which will return files for a folder. You have get directory root, which will return / for a Unix, or C:, or for Windows, or / network name for a networked drive on a Windows, and so on and so on. You can move the stuff around, check if the path folder is empty, get creation time, set creation time, all usual file manipulation functions. Then you have another big record, which is tpath, which gives you manipulation for a string that represents a file path. With tpath, you can split it into parts, into folders and file name. You can it contains constants for separator between elements. Is it / or /? It contains array of characters that are not valid as a file name, because again, this is not the same on Windows and on OS X, and so on. It will check the path if it's valid. It will check if it's relative, it's UNC, if it exists, if file exists, extract file name, and so on and so on and so on. Lots of stuff. And then there's also tfile, which works similar to tDirectory, but only contains operations that are file specific. So you can get set file modification times, read all bytes, read the file as if it is a text file, which is again a problem, because on Windows the character for end of line is carriage return followed by line fit. On Mac, well, it depends. The old Macs, which were not Unixes, they used carriage return and nothing else. Unix uses line fit and nothing else. So it's a great fun if you want to process text files on all platforms correctly. It can be done, but it's really not a nice job. So you also have here append text, append all text. It will simplify your life with text files. Create text, encryption, decryption, copying, moving files, and so on and so on. So take an hour and just browse this unit. It's very helpful. But I will move on. Audio and video. This was the recent edition. This is available only in XE3. It's not available in XE2. There's a fmx.media unit with 2 units which are for Mac and for Windows, and they are compiled in depending on the platform you are compiling for. Both contain the T-Media player, which will play audio and video through the system's codecs. It uses direct show, I think, on Windows, and whatever is used for playout. Yes, QuickTime, thank you, on OS X. And then there's also the T-audio capture device and T-video capture device, which will get video from the camera or sound from the microphone and store it into a file for you. And there's also a audio and video device manager, which will enumerate available devices and allow you to connect to any of them, the one you require. I will not show a demo here because we don't have time. But there are 2 sample applications included with XE3, which of course I don't have in the recent list. Samples, FireMonkey, and it's called, well, one is Media Player HD. This is just a playout demo. And another is Video Capture HD, which declares a video capture device. This is a video camera. And the demo application just says video T-Capture device manager, current instance, give me the default device. You could also enumerate stuff here. And you assign on sample buffer ready, and you'll get buffer for each picture. Well, this should work with my webcam here. And then it stops. So there is some support for video and audio management and playout. It's not really sophisticated, but it will cover some basic needs. Yeah, reports. Everybody loves doing reporting, yes. Favorite pastime. Well, only now it is possible to create a report that will work on Windows and on OS X, because Fast Report is finally available for the FireMonkey. It was made available, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago.
It's just been updated yesterday.
Oh, again.
Or something like that.
But it is here. Yay. And I don't think you can expect any other reporting solution at the moment for FireMonkey. So if you are doing reporting, that's it. Nothing else. Printing. If you don't want to use a reporting tool, maybe you would want to print directly. Well, there's a good DocWiki topic on that. There's the fmx.printer unit, again available for Win and Mac, which exposes a canvas, and you can do the printing the old-fashioned ways by painting to the canvas on both flat platforms. Dialogs are available for both Windows and OS X, like tprint dialog, tprinter setup dialog, page setup dialog. There's a demo included in my code, which I got on the internet. I really didn't want to write printing code. Done by, sorry, I lost the author. But you can go printer, active printer, select, DPI, canvas, fill, begin doc. You know how it goes maybe. If you don't know how it goes, then don't study this stuff. It's bad for nerves. This demo takes an image, which is included in the form, coffee to keep you awake, and prints it on a printer. I think I can, okay, I can run it on OS X too, but it will not work as I don't have any printer there. I have virtual printer on my Windows, so I can demo it at least. Okay, I don't know, I tested it on my main desktop computer, I never tested it on this, so you can try at home if it works. Yeah?
I think there is a workaround if you can print your PDF.
Yes. If you use any PDF creation tools, like PDF in a box or whatever that is, in the free version. Well, maybe also. But if you use any PDF creation tools, basically all printing on the OS X is PDF based. Whatever printer you have, it's either PostScript or PDF. And PostScript can handle PDF well because PDF is PostScript, actually. So if you create PDF, it will come out pixel perfect on your OS X printer, so there will be no problems with it. Yes, that's a good solution, thanks. What I wanted to show is tprint dialog here, actually. So if I run this, I will do print dialog 1.execute, nothing else. Running on Windows. Standard one. Running on OS X. We'll see how the application gets started on OS X. Oh, this one is not running anymore. No, it is running, okay. Small icon starts bouncing at the bottom of the screen and then your application opens up. Let's give it some time. This is the OS X, OS X printer selection dialog. I have a fake IP printer installed so that I can show at least something. As you see, default way to print something on OS X is PDF. This one came out in a few of my sessions. How to work with the XML. Some time ago, it was incorrectly stated somewhere on the internet that XML document is only working on Windows. Then the information got corrected, so you can use XML document that comes with Delphi. The only trick is that by default, when you drop it, let me retract. If you create it in code, it will use the correct DOM vendor for your target. It will use MS XML on Windows and ADOM on Mac, which is ADO. I don't know which DOM it is. Something that works on both. This one actually works on both platforms. MS XML, of course, works only on Windows. But that is if you're creating in code. If you drop it onto the form, the default DOM vendor is MS XML, even for FireMonkey applications. So you have to go and change it to ADOM. And if you pressed save before changing it, Delphi will helpfully insert xml.win.msxml DOM into your unit, into the uses list. And when you change it into the ADOM, this doesn't get deleted automatically. So it's there, and it doesn't, and it won't compile for OS X. So you have to go and delete it by hand. It's not a problem, but it's good if you're aware of it. Then you can use OS X specific functions like TNS, which is native system XML. A demo for this one is in my code. A demo for this one is in FireMonkey samples that come with Delphi. It's called XML sample, and it uses directly low-level OS X stuff. I don't know why you would want to do that, but it's possible. The third option is to use some third-party XML Parser Generator, which is not dependent on MS XML at all, but which implements everything in code. I'm very attached to the Omni XML, which was written by a colleague of mine years ago. It will work fine on Windows and on OS X, with one small modification which I included in the code archive if you would like to try it out. And why I like it? Because there are a few very good wrappers for it. For example, if I go to the XML document, the default DOM vendor is MS XML. To work on both platforms, I have to change this to ADO XML. But to do something in TXML document, it's a very, very long, winded job. All this code is here to create just a few lines of code of XML. If you use Omni XML, which is free, I'm not trying to sell you anything here. You can, for example, compress all this stuff into 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 lines. And it's still the same. Okay, but enough of the XML. Databases, you get all those for Windows and for OS X. DataSnap works, client dataset works. This is the stuff that you simply copy over, and it's working. And okay, I'll show the demo for Visual Live Bindings. Well, I will show application that comes with Delphi. Simple DB bind link project. Very complicated name. This is a FireMonkey version of FishFacts without any database aware controls. And I will rewire it so it will go faster. I don't remember if I need this. We'll add it. I'll just keep the client data set with the data so I don't have to recreate it and load the data and everything. So I have a t-image, t-memo, t-edit. Okay, this one is special. Bind navigator. And I can right-click and call up. Let's say, for starters, I will click on nodes and I will say bind visually. I get a screen showing me everything on my form that can be connected. And I can say, for example, connect me image control to the graphics field in the database. Connect the memo control to the nodes field, and so on and so on. I can also put on a string grid and say, I'll show you this later. This one is too cluttered. But as you see, I have here image connected to the graphics field, memo connected. I can also connect bind navigator. I can connect bind navigator to the data set. And if I run it now, let's see if this is Windows. Yes, it will be faster. Oh, I deleted data source, yeah. Did I save that? Yeah, I did. I deleted too much for a quick demo. So my navigation should work now just by connecting the navigator to with the visual live bindings. Okay, those other controls are not connected, so they are not functioning. But if you see here at the bottom, this is a normal FireMonkey grid, which I will now move. We'll keep it here, but I'll make it bigger for you to see. If I go to the binder, my string grid is here. You need a big monitor for this, not 800 by 600 screen. I just connect string grid to everything. That's the star. And it will map to the database. Okay, this will look ugly now because I moved it over some other controls, but to get the feeling, I can move, everything is connected. Yes?
Question, please. How I can align to write the float number field, like length?
How you can what?
Align to write.
Align to write, sorry. I don't know at the moment. I was not working with the grid so much. And from what I was working with the grid, it still looks clumsy at the moment to me. Yeah, and you need, that's what I wanted to say. And if you need a grid, get the TMS grid. It's okay for demos, but if you want to fine-tune stuff and you are into lots of work. The nice thing about visual live bindings is that you can drop something called a dataset provider onto a form. You can drop a provider component onto the form and connect it on one side with your live bindings system, on the other side with the database. And it will map stuff, it will provide you the data. And when you want to do the testing, you can disconnect it from the database and connect it to a static source, data source, for example, client data set on the form that always has the correct data needed to run the unit tests or to run the application tests. You can also connect it to an object that generates your test data automatically. You don't have to fill database with the test data. You just change one connection, either visually or in the code. And everything will work and function as before, except that you will not be getting data from the data set. You will be getting data from a code that generates the data. And that's one great feature for testing, for application testing, for simulations, for load simulations, for debugging hard to find problems, for everything. It really is great. Okay. This is the last part. When can I learn more? tindex.net, and you have to type www in front, otherwise it doesn't work. It's a fantastic resource listing, just collecting blog articles from all the internet and mapping them to specific Delphi versions. So if you go there and click on FireMonkey and to specific topics, if you go there and click on FireMonkey, you'll get, for XE3, these are good resources, for XE2, these are good articles, and so on and so on. The Australian guy, I forgot how he's called, sorry. is managing this, and really, really, really recommend it. This month, David I is doing a series of short videos, 5 to 8 minutes each, called 31 XE3 quick videos. You can find this on his blog. And about half of the videos are dedicated to FireMonkey and to visual live bindings. So this is a good start. Then, of course, Delphi fits as a block concentrator. And you will almost always find a good answer on Stack Overflow if you tag it with Delphi and FireMonkey, and if you describe the problem well, of course. But to start reading tindex.net, very good. So, done? Questions? Yes?
Actually, an early question. This work with Windows and OS X.
Which?
But when we have a tool that do the same for iOS.
Oh, excellent question. Promised by Embarcadero in the mobile, whatever it will be called. It will be based on FireMonkey. So all this applies. The remote debugger should be working as I've shown you today. Data snap will be supported. I think supported databases will be SQLite and Interbase to Go. I'm not sure about the second. Interbase to Go is embedded version of the Interbase, just a DLL that you put with your application, and it functions as a full Interbase. What else? Well, if you would like to work with XML on the iOS, then I really recommend a third-party application. Printing, I think, will not be supported at the beginning. I don't know. Fast reports almost surely won't be supported at the beginning, but again, this is a guess. But all the basic stuff is supposed to be the same. That's what they're promising. We'll be seeing the first betas this month, so I didn't even see anything yet. So.
We wait.
Yes, we wait. Okay, so we finished. Thank you for visiting me.